all over, but the cry.
How many of your parents are from a country that is in Canada? How have your parents brought parts of their culture to you as an English-speaking citizen of Canada? How many of you honor your cultural heritage through practicing and studying your cultural customs? Of course, it would be odd to practice every single cultural practice. Being proud of your own roots and history, we tend to appreciate our heritage through westernized ways that reflect our ethnic arts in forms that we find entertaining or understandable. This interest in one's native culture is older than most pop culture that we know. The most notable example of a culture being revived through modern forms of art and music starts a bit after the 1920s, around the time The Great Gatsby takes place. 1865. The Emancipation Proclamation allowed for African Americans to become independent citizens of America. Forcefully emigrated to America and made indentured servants for many decades, the cultural customs they passed down from generation to generation from Africa were kept hidden or lost. First immigrating to a new country, an immigrant's first concern probably isn't about displaying their heritage well or not. Most likely it was, how do I make a living here among these white people as a foreigner? It was also that of black citizens of America shortly after they gained their sovereignty. From the 1870s to the 1920s, many African Americans faced racial prejudice, and in an attempt to integrate into society, to settle down and make a future for themselves, they kept their culture and identity as proud black citizens inconspicuous. Much to the chagrin of black rights activists of the 20th century, they tossed aside their heritage altogether while changing their names to white names. 50 years later, as African American families began to settle down in America, more and more opportunities to admire cultural heritage emerged. Attending higher education and studying music and art of African and European influences allowed them to connect with both of their roots, America and Africans. Banjo plucking, mandolin, and blues forms of playing were all musical styles that originated from Africa. Being a melting pot of ethnic groups, North American history is made up of contributions of each race. Shouldn't we be proud that our collective identity is what makes up a country? Canada, for example, holds French, British, and Native American heritage as important cultures that made it a country during colonial times. And as a result, it pays respect to their combined culture as something that makes up Canada. African Americans began to grow more and more conscientious regarding their place in America. They have been integral to American society and culture for decades, but are still treated like second-class citizens. The Harlem Renaissance was born out of this, an artistic movement that was African art with European influences, an art style that showed that American society was mutual respect between black and white. Just like the real Renaissance, a focus was on human emotions and freedoms of African American citizens. Century pop culture now adopts the freedom of expression and fine art of other rich cultures and histories. Many art forms such as hip-hop, jazz, blues, and African art flourish in our society today.